you all for coming here from all around the world. And thank you to Eric and Karen, Laura, and John for honoring us with this celebration. We really appreciate it. And thank you for all of us, from Judy and me, for all of you being here and for being part of our lives. Now, as you know, I like to look at the internet, and I tried to come up with some ancient Chinese proverbs that characterize my life. And I found one that the Chinese apparently said was a curse. It said, "May you live in interesting times." And I thought about that, and we have lived in interesting times. But is it really a curse? Do any of you know, did that really come from the Chinese? I looked up on Google, and the answer was no. It really came from a sci-fi writer.
I believe that.
Stephen King.
And I'll read it to you. This was, as for the curse itself, the main character of U-Turn, this science fiction novel in 1950, was a man named Mason, who had opted for assisted suicide to escape a regimented life in which Venus and Mars are civilized, life on the moon is spent safely underground, and wild animals in Earth's jungles are as harmless as if they were artificial. We learn at the end of the story that Mason has correctly surmised that the death chamber to which he voluntarily goes is actually a Star Trek-like transporter, which will irreversibly send him where he really wants to go, to the current human frontier, Callisto, one of the moons of Jupiter, assuming he is among the small fraction of those who will survive the disassociation and reassociation process of the device. But before that, while one of the bureaucrats processes his wish, Mason complains about the order, regulation, and control under which everyone on Earth is forced to live. He says, "For centuries, the Chinese used an ancient curse. May you live in interesting times." He says, "It isn't a curse anymore. It's a blessing. We're scientific, we're civilized, we've got so many rights and liberties and freedoms that one can yearn for chains for the sheer pleasure of busting them and shaking them off. Reckon life would be more livable if there were more chains left to bust." So now the question is, did Russell simply invent the curse in telling the story? Or was he perhaps a devotee of Jung, in whose writings he might have found a still earlier reference? We don't know. So, again, in associating my life, I feel that for these 50 years we've lived in interesting times. There have been some curses, we've been ill, we've had problems, but there have been more blessings. I think of the kids, I think of repairing cars, I think of Eric's Volkswagen and tearing the engine apart and putting it back together. I think of the Volkswagens on the driveway. I think of the green Honda, what was it, Eric?
Civic.
That got passed on
Spray painting.
to
Spray
Laura
painting cars.
Yeah, to me.
and John.
Vintage John.
To me.
And to you. I think of the orange Ford Fiesta that she used to call me about. It had broken down.
The choke.
Changed the gas tank on it too.
Drilled a hole in it.
I think of changing John's carburetor and drilling a hole in the gas tank to get rid of the water in the Rice parking lot. I think of Karen's car underwater.
22 feet.
Was that an Acura or something? Or
Yeah, an Acura Legend.
And those were joyful things.
Not for me.
I think of losing Hans, her first husband, which was a sad thing. And so life consists of joys and sorrows. And I'd like to propose a toast. May you all continue to live in interesting times. I'd rather be more blessings than sorrows.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Judy, I've been best friends for 31 years. And I'm just very happy to be included in your family. And I just feel very blessed and privileged to be here and be the only non-family members here. We're all family.